The concept of monarchy is a foreign one to most Americans. This is, after all, a country that rejected the rule of its own monarchy by armed insurrection more than 200 years ago. Washington, D.C., then, is an unexpected place to find great symbols of royal authority. But deep in a leafy suburb away from Capitol Hill, a quiet museum exhibits a small crown that was once part of Russia's imperial jewel collection. Its glittering diamonds recall the majesty of Russia's long-vanished imperial court, a world that was designed and later destroyed by profligate wealth and reckless leadership. History insists that most of the diamonds from the nuptial crown came from the collection of Catherine the Great. Like every monarch before her, the Tsarina's word was law, and every monarch after her would exercise absolute rule in conducting affairs of state. It is thought that the nuptial crown was crafted during the reign of Nicholas I in the 1840s by the jewelers Nichols and Plink. A mere 4 inches across, the crown is small, but with more than 1,500 diamonds it certainly is not light. Numerous Romanov brides wore the crown for their weddings, from future empresses to sisters of the reigning emperor. The full wedding regalia included the nuptial tiara, behind which the crown was situated, along with cherry drop earrings, a magnificent necklace, and an enormous mantle clasp. The ensemble was so burdensome that some brides required help rising from their knees after kneeling during the wedding ceremony. The nuptial crown's most memorable appearance was at the wedding of Tsar Nicholas II and the Tsarina Alexandra at the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg in 1894. During the ceremony, the crown was placed upon Alexandra's head, as cannons fired and church bells rang out across the empire. Reserved especially for weddings, it is not likely that the crown was used in Nicholas and Alexandra's coronation 2 years later. However, as one of Europe's first great occasions of state, captured thoroughly in both photographs and film, the coronation gives one an idea of the grandeur of the imperial court, in which the crown jewels played an essential role in communicating the Romanovs' authority. Despite the image conveyed by magnificent displays like the coronation, the empire Nicholas inherited was riddled with cracks which only grew during his reign. The Russian nobility controlled most of the country's wealth. Industrialization made them richer, while low wages, poor working conditions, and inadequate housing diminished quality of life for the working class. Information shared by the media, both true and false, accelerated discontent and exacerbated social unrest, giving traction to the rising communist movement led by the Bolsheviks. The economic hardship of the First World War inflamed tensions and pushed Russia closer to the brink of revolution. Holding tightly to the Tsar's traditional autocratic role in government, Nicholas continually refused to enact any meaningful democratic reforms that would improve the lives of the working class. The influences of the delusional Tsarina Alexandra and the half-mad monk Grigory Rasputin countered any attempts by the Tsar's ministers and extended family to persuade Nicholas of the dire need for reforms. As Nicholas and Alexandra built a wall around themselves with one poor decision after the next, the country spiraled further into a desperate hunger for change. A perfect storm was brewing. The storm clouds finally burst in February 1917. Chairman of the legislature, Mikhail Rodzienko, sent Nicholas a gravely worded telegram. Your Majesty, serious situation in the capital, where anarchy reigns. General discontent increasing. In the streets, uninterrupted firing. It is necessary to nominate without delay a person possessing the confidence of the people, and who would form a new government. To wait is impossible. I pray God that at this hour the responsibility may not fall upon the crown. It was too late for accountability to fall anywhere else. With the army defecting to join the insurgents, what little authority the Tsar had left completely collapsed. Russia's representative assembly, the State Duma, took it upon themselves to restore public order and demanded Nicholas's abdication, ending more than 300 years of Romanov rule. The State Duma established itself as a temporary government and declared Russia a republic, which itself was toppled within a matter of months after failing to secure a stable democracy. The Bolsheviks seized upon the power vacuum and established communist rule. Nicholas, Alexandra, and their 5 children were arrested and executed by Bolshevik revolutionaries and buried in an unmarked grave deep in Siberia. Extended members of the Romanov family fled the country. One of the last to leave was Nicholas's mother, the Dowager Empress Maria Feodorovna. Her sister, Britain's Dowager Queen Alexandra, mother of King George V, pressed her to seek asylum in England. The British Admiralty dispatched a battleship to rescue the king's aunt. Her resignation was a final confirmation that the old order in Russia had come to pass. Maria Feodorovna would hope against reason for the rest of her days that her son and grandchildren had somehow lived and escaped Russia. Large swaths of the imperial jewel collection were also leaving Russia. Having been stored away in strong boxes in the Kremlin since the beginning of the First World War, the newly formed Soviet government began cataloging items from the jewel collection for sale in order to generate much-needed cash. Some of the crown jewels were disassembled so their jewels could be sold individually. Other pieces were sold to unknown buyers and have since disappeared. The Soviet government sold countless national treasures in a cultural diaspora, relinquishing items from the imperial jewel collection as well as the Russian Orthodox Church, whose influence the Soviet Union sought to eliminate. The Bolsheviks did not see any exceptional value in the nuptial crown, and so instead of bothering to disassemble it and sell its diamonds separately, the crown was sold intact. A syndicate of jewelers purchased the nuptial crown from the Soviet government, who then sold it at Christie's in London in the spring of 1927. Not long afterward, the jeweler Pierre Cartier happened upon the delicate treasure in the window of an antique shop in Paris. He recognized it instantly. Cartier purchased the crown from the shop, which went on to grace the heads of Cartier models for years. The old jeweler stored the crown in a desk drawer, proclaiming his intention to personally present it to the next emperor once the Romanovs were restored to power. Over the next couple of decades, the crown would change hands several times. In 1952, much to the shock of loyal monarchists, the crown made headlines when it was worn by the winner of the Miss Universe contest in California. American businesswoman and heiress to the Post cereal company, Marjorie Merriweather Post, acquired the nuptial crown in 1966. Marjorie had an unapologetic infatuation with Russian art and history. Room after room of her estate in northwest Washington, D.C. was devoted to displaying her massive collection. Upon Marjorie's death in 1973, Hillwood and its vast collection became a museum, where the nuptial crown has remained on public display, striking visitors with visions of a distant world, washed away long ago in the ocean of time. Russia and the United States are two vastly different countries, half a world away from one another. Despite the chasms of culture and geography, the two superpowers have at times resembled one another. America today grapples with many of the same problems that triggered the collapse of the Russian Empire more than a century ago. The nuptial crown recalls that magnificent world of the imperial court that was available to a privileged few. The story it's been a part of lays bare a stark reminder that has as much relevance to the world today as it did more than a century ago. Any government that prioritizes the defense of power and wealth over the welfare of the common people is not sustainable.